Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today with Georgina Steytler from Australia, who's got a connection to Cape Town, Somerset West, etc. We won't go into the other things that we mentioned about how much more of a South African she seems than just from the accent. But that's for another story. Those recordings will all be sent to her privately, etc. So. Georgina is someone who I've stalked on Instagram for a while. Her bird photography is absolutely outstanding. You know, every time there's another picture on there, I can't wait to go through them all again. I think I did a quick look this morning on your website, Georgina, and that banded stilt blur. No, it was fantastic.
Sorry.
The banded stilt blur image, still one of my favorites. And then that fairy wren. You know, the blue with the sort of quite monotone background and the trees. I just absolutely love it.
Yes, I've got that today. Yep.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm not going to talk anymore. People don't want to hear my voice; they want to see your beautiful images, etc. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much for being part of it today.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me, Quentin. Quentin has discovered that this is the first time I've ever used webcam. In fact, I didn't even know I had a webcam. And then I was like, oh no, it's one of those hideous ones that's at the bottom of the scrend. So, you know, anyway, we're making do with it.
It's so working, you have to very well so far. Working very well.
And I have had a little glass of wine, but as I pointed out, I've only had a little bit, and it is 5 p.m. in Australia, so I'm perfectly allowed to start drinking. What I wanted to talk about today, though, is something that's close to something that I've been looking at, and I've been creating this idea of a creativity continuum in photography. Because I think there's a lot of people, you get so used to the bird on branch images on the internet that you're like, you think that's what bird photography is. And I want to kind of say to people who are not into bird photography, it's so much more than that. And also people who are in bird photography and they're stuck in that rut of a bird on a branch on a mossy log or something, that there's so much more to it. And especially if you're using big lenses, you can get a little bit myopic, quite literally, because you're looking down the barrel of this huge lens and that's all you end up seeing. So I just want to hopefully inspire people and say there is so much more to this, that you just need to step out of the whole idea that you have and just completely turn it on its head, and you can create beautiful images. One of the things I'm passionate about is on my website, I've got, my motto is kind of art, conservation, ethics. So I suppose if you sum me up, that sums me up. I'm very passionate about creating artistic images as opposed to just ID. I still do ID recording images and I give them to stock libraries and things like that. But for me, I'm more interested in artistic images and telling a story with the image. And the other thing is conservation, because I came into bird photography from a conservation point of view. I volunteered with BirdLife WA. I didn't come from the photography side, and I think that stayed with me, and I've got lost a bit in the last couple of years, but it's where I want to be and it's where I'm heading. And also, if you can be a social influencer and have advocacy is hugely important at the moment, because I think it's the apathy of the majority that allows a lot of things to happen in our world. Not the deeds of a few people, but the majority of people who are just sitting back and allowing it to happen. So we all need to start stepping forward and doing more. And then the last thing is ethics, because especially with the impact of social media, it's just going wild. Bird photography, it's grown astronomical, and people are doing things just to get an image for that day, and they're prepared to do worse things than they should. And I just want to bring people back to the idea that, you know, really the bird comes first. I don't like doing anything that interferes with the birds. I never flush them. I don't use call playback. I don't tend not to use food or anything like that. I mean, if there's baited birds, in the terms of food being put out, depending on what it is, if it's a natural food, I'll photograph them. But or if they're near water, I don't have a problem with water. But I think generally we just need to be more conscious of how we go about it. But I don't want to go too much about that. I just wanted to outline that. And I hope to take you on a journey today, and I'll try to speak. I do speak quickly, but I also speak a lot, so it doesn't really help.
So,
So
as I
you have to
said,
bear with me.
we've got an hour. If I need to edit out a whole lot of, backwards and forwards, I'll make sure that we do that.
Okay, great. So what I want to do, and I want to show people, what I do is I think I'll go into it. Can I start sharing now?
Yes, you can start sharing. Okay. Thank you.
Have a go.
Yeah, good luck.
I guarantee this is going to work. Yeah.
I can edit all of this, backwards and forwards out. It's not a problem. There we go.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'll do the slideshow from the beginning. Once I work that out. There we are. Have we got that screen?
Yeah.
So that's
perfect.
just
Love
my
it.
logo. And okay, so we go to the next one. And this is what it's called the creativity continuum. And I did this actually quite quickly one day, so it probably needs a lot of work. But what I'm trying to show people is that there is a continuum, and it starts from the left-hand side where I call it technically precise images. The kind of classic bird on branch. It's got a catch slide, it's exposed to the right, sharp, good dynamic range. It's quite, this shooting with the sun at your back, it's a clear background. And, when you start photography, you can't just leap into artistic things. I think you do have to learn the rules like a pro. So you have to learn how to get that perfect technical image. But then you want to start exploring, going all the way across this continuum until you get to pure art, which it can be, when you get to the pure art, there are no rules basically. But what's more important is aesthetic values. So it can be completely abstract. You're pushing your boundaries. It could be interpretive. But the number one thing is it's got to be visually pleasing. And that's something that's acquired. And I think it's never talked about in handbooks, whereas it's actually the most important part of photography in any genre, I think, is developing an eye. And it's the only thing you're going to do it is do it with experience, looking at good images and just hoping like hell that they sink in. So, I mean, it's true. It's really amazing image. And then one day it'd be like, oh, hang on, that's that shot that so-and-so got that looked amazing. And suddenly you see a new way of focusing on that scene that you wouldn't have otherwise. And that's what I mean about looking at good images. And it goes into your subconscious and you develop this thing. So types of things that up the creativity, I call bird on branches or bird on water. You do it with colour, contrast, surroundings. Maybe you make the image really anthropomorphic because I think that's important to get people to engage with animals in this day and age. I'm not buying this whole thing that you can't anthropomorphize animals. Of course, you have to and you should because you need people to care. Action, of course, action is always a classic one. Birds in flight, amazing behaviour, courting, feeding. And then once you go up, you start using light. So you're getting a usual composition, but you're getting a nice pose or background, nice light, reflections, the golden hours. And then you go up from there from composition, maybe you're getting composition, action and light, or composition, action and mist or rain. And then you're starting to get into what I call dramatic light, which is not the light, the golden light, it can be dramatic, or the light at your back. I'm talking about the one that creates drama and mood, and that tends to be backlight, side light, bokeh, silhouette, night photography. There's all ways of upping the ante until you get to unusual compositions and poses, and then at the very end you get a really abstract artistic image. So that's where I wanted to take today. I hope that. One more thing I'll add about that is, I don't know what you think about this, Quinton. Is this the first time you're seeing it?
What, this process?
Yes, my little creativity continuum.
I love it. I love it. And I'll tell you why. I only really started photographing birds, I suppose in the big scheme of things, fairly recently, 2 years maybe. And I was introduced to it by a friend of mine, Roger Machin, who wanted to do a fish out of water type scenario. So take a photographer who likes everything exactly where it should be, the light from here, etc., and then put them in the surroundings where they have no control whatsoever. And it's funny how for me it's become this bug that's just bitten hugely. But what you said earlier on about it starts on, you start with we have the term here is bird on a stick. That's the sort of the starting point, where you take a beautiful portrait of it. But you have to, and then people complain and it's just bird on a stick, anyone can do that. But you have to start there in order to progress. You know, so I'm very glad that you mentioned that, because it makes me feel better. You know, but at the end of the day, you have to have that profession, and you have to almost go through the steps to get to a point of where you can just you know, you do the unique compositions and that sort of thing. You know, I think this is a fantastic description of it.
Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to show people where they might sit, because I think the problem I've perceived with handbooks and things today is that they're mashing all these concepts together and mixing up in chapters. Whereas what people really need to know when they come to bird photography, first of all, how do you take that technically good photo? So cut out all the rest of the stuff. This is how you take that photo. Master that. Okay, now that you've mastered that, then we can start going in. This is some ways to switch it up. And my idea is that, yes, you can get away with semi-automatic mode when you're doing purely technical stuff. But I think once you start getting into creativity, you really want to master manual. In fact, when I teach workshops, I teach people to shoot in manual, not necessarily because manual is always the best way, but when you're learning, if you're not learning in manual, you're not ever really coming to terms with aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And you need to come to terms with exposure triangle if, you know, to nail anything. If you're on a semi-automatic mode, you're never coming to terms with that. Once you've come to terms with it, you can go back to semi-automatic. I don't care what you do. But when you're learning, and also if you want creative control, you're going to have to switch to manual. That's just how I actually quite passionately believe that. And I get really annoyed when people are just kind of dumbed down and said, oh, you can just shoot an aperture priority. Well, it's not really doing them any favors, because if they only ever do that, they'll never really learn. So I push my attendees to kind of push the boundaries and say, don't do it when you've got to take images and you're going to be stressed. But when you don't have stress, because everybody knows it's like, you know, there's something coming again, you know, you want to get the action, and they go, oh damn, Georgina had me in manual and I missed the shot completely. Don't do that. Like, do it when you're relaxed and you're in your backyard. Start practicing and getting to know those things. And I think once people do it, it's really empowering, because they go, okay, I shoot in manual, I know what I'm doing, I know how to get the result I want. I look at a scene, I know exactly what I want, and I know how to get it. Okay, so now I'll go down to some images. And I just put this one in because it's like learn the rules like a pro. I mean, I'm looking at this now and I'm saying it's over sharpened, and you can tell because I read something, if it's over sharpened, if you can snap it.
I love that technical description. You know it's over sharpened. You can snap it. Lovely. It's
a bit crunchy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is the classic photo that we're talking about. People want to get that shot. So how do I and this was taken from a bird hide. It's a classic shot. There was water. It was in an arid part of Australia. And this is a mulga parrot. Like, they're phenomenally beautiful. So I was really, really desperate to get a good technical shot, because everybody wants this kind of shot of a mulga parrot. They're so, so beautiful. And it's really amazing. You see those colours, and it's in this arid area with red dirt. And then there's just this beautiful parrot. And so that's what we're talking about when we say learn the rules like a pro. That's the shot. You want to get to that level, and then you want to start experimenting creatively. And this is another example. Has that shot come up?
Fantastically so.
Yeah, so this is the great crested grebe. And this is one of the shots, actually, I'm in the running for the Portfolio Prize of the Bird Photography of the Year. And there's 6 shots. There's 5 of us who are shortlisted, and this is one of my 6 shots. And I think because it's very high impact, but how I got this shot, and this is an example of going beyond just a normal shot, but you're getting action and you're also getting behaviour, because this was grebes were courting, and you can tell when you observe. I've seen some of the other presenters on birds, and it's so true. You have to know your subjects, but often that just means sitting down and watching them for a while. And to get this shot, I was at this lake. It's in the middle of the Perth city, a herdsman lake. It's very well known for having courting grebes. So it's an unbelievable location in the middle of a city, and you've got access to the birds. You lie on the lawn. And I say to people, it's all about location. You don't need to go to exotic places. They're right on your doorstep. And it's about finding out where's the best location. And I lay there for 5 days. Every morning, I hate getting up early with a passion. I cannot stress that enough. You do not want to come near me. If I'm up in the morning, I'm not a happy chappy. My friend's a landscape photographer, and she said, oh my God, you're never going to be a landscape photographer. Because we went on a trip and I never got up at sunrise once. I was just like, no. So I did, on this occasion, I made myself get up early. The first 2 hours after sunrise and a bit before, and then sunset and a bit after, for 5 days. And this was the best shot out of it. And, you know, it required being there every day to get that moment. But I was lying and also being in the right location and having the settings ready to go. So I wanted to, I'm always keen. People are obsessed with low ISO. I think, is it Anthony mentioned that? And that drives me bananas too, because it doesn't, it's so irrelevant today. You're missing out on opportunities if you're keeping it at 100 ISO or something. So what I do, I always have the settings, if light allows, unless it's really, really, really low light, at least 25/100th of a second to capture action. And I'll use whatever ISO I need. So this was sunny, quite. It was early-ish in the morning, but the light was good. So I only ISO 400. And someone said to me, "Why do you have 1/6400th of a second? There's no magic there. It's just that I get lazy and I just move the shutter button as the light comes and goes. I'm adjusting shutter speed rather than ISO." This is an example that if you have the settings there, you have for bird photography, you always have it in L servo, which is continuous focus mode, I think AFC on Nikon. And you just be ready and you watch them, and I could see them starting to get agitated. Another pair of birds was coming close, and then this bird started to take off. You see he's got his neck bent over and he's got that, you know, I'm going to beat you up kind of.
It's definitely a lot of what's the word? I can't think of the word, but it's posturing. There we go. There's a
attitude, yeah,
attitude, and there. Love it, absolutely love it.
So this is a classic thing. It's got the technical stuff there. It's getting to eye level, but it's being ready for action. It's having it in continuous focus mode. I always use burst. I call it spray and pray. And I know I'm probably one of those people mentioned a shutter hall. Well, that's me. I'm photographing everything. And my theory is, okay, yeah. I know I probably take too many photos, but you only need to process one.
Absolutely.
You don't need to process the whole lot.
And if you didn't take the other 3200, you might not have gotten that one.
Well, that's right. And so I've got another shot, and I was like, I took 5,000 images or something on that day to get this one photo. But this is what I stress to people. There's no magic in this shot. It's having the fast enough settings. It's going out, patience and persistence every day, observing the birds, being where the light's right, and being there when the action happens, and then you get it. If you're not out there, you're not going to get it. That's the bottom line too.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is, I put this in even though it's not a bird. This is my image that won me the Invertebrates Behaviour category in the Wildlife Photography of the Year in 2018. And I went out this day. Actually, I'll give you the inside running on this picture because, okay, I actually went out to photograph birds. And that was the great irony. And then I thought, oh my God, I went out to photograph birds and I've come back with this image. And then I realized, well, it's not so strange because they are actually in flight. And what I used
there are
for
wings
this
involved.
photo, there are wings involved. And what I used for this photo is exactly the same thing I would do for a bird. And the only thing that was different is you try and track one of these little wasps with a 600 millimeter lens. And I had a 1.4 teleconverter. I'm just looking at the settings. You know, it is hard because they're small and they're moving around this giant, and you're zoomed in. I was as close as I could be, the closest focal distance I could be. I think it was 4 meters or something. So what I did is I pre-focused on the wasp that is where they're digging out mud. They're called mud-rolling mud dauber wasps. And then sometimes the other ones would fly in or out. And so when I saw one coming, I would just press the shutter and pray, spray and pray. and I took something like 5,000 photos or something that day. But this is the only one where I had 2 in focus, and they've got the little balls. I had f8 to try and get detail. Because they're so small, I needed to have a bigger depth of field.
Yeah.
I needed a fast shutter speed. And I went up to ISO 1000, even though the light was quite good. So, you know, these are just the things you do. Don't be scared of ISO. And the other thing I'll tell you about this image is I did this with a dog and 2 kangaroos. How Australian is that? And I had thongs on, I think. I was lying in a mud hole, and I had my dog tethered to a tree a bit further away, or she was lying in the shade, and I had the 2 kangaroos in the car because they were joeys and I was looking after them. And, you know, it just is one of these things that you just get in the right place at the right time, but you have the right settings. And if you don't go out, you know, but, you know, so you don't, I mean, I suppose the point of that story is you don't need to be in camo, and you don't need to be some amazing, you know, stereotypical nature photography. You can just be someone who, you know, like me.
Well, apparently all you need is a DX, a 600mm, 2 joeys, and a dog. And,
yeah, I know. Well, I shouldn't say that.
The shot is easy then. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, I know you do say that. Good. People, I hate it when people say, "Oh, equipment doesn't matter," and I say, "Well,
oh no."
It really
With something like this, it certainly does. I mean, that the 600 and the DX combination is absolutely fantastic, and the fact that you can get so many frames per second. If you'd had something slower, the flying wasp could have been just out, either past it or ahead of it. And I mean, and even from an ISO point of view, you know, I'm terrible with ISO. My first digital camera was a 10D, Canon 10D, and that, you know, as soon as you went over 200 ISO, it was like shooting through sandpaper. So I've got this natural aversion to ISO. But the modern cameras, it's completely clean. You go up to 10,000 ISO, you know, so it does make a difference. Absolutely.
It does make a difference. And I tell you what, I did go back with a macro lens because I thought, oh, maybe I can get closer with a macro. And, you know, I couldn't get close to these wasps because they didn't like me being closer. So it's interesting. I actually needed the 600 millimeters. I was thinking it's a bit overkill because, you know, people don't normally photograph.
Well, not something 4 meters in front of them.
In the end, I did actually need all of that equipment, and it does help. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so I should probably move on. Okay, now this is a cool image.
Oh, I love this one.
This one, he's a young black guy, and he was sitting on the antenna of our house for over half an hour before I went to photograph him. I'm trying to write a novel, and I was sitting there and I could hear him crying, and I said, oh God, there's a bloody bird like raptor on the roof. I should really photograph. No, I'm too lazy. But I left it, and eventually I was like, that's it, I'm going out, I'm going to photograph. And so, I mean, someone said, oh, you must have sat there for hours to get this shot. And I said, no, it's actually completely outrageous. He was on the roof of our house. I went out there, and what happened is his parent flew up behind me with a mouse or something. And so the juvenile flew up in front of me, and it happened to be looking roughly in my direction and screamed at the parent. So it's the right place, right time, but it's taking a raptor shot in flight just to the next level. And again, this is spray and pray. You want to have a lot of frames because you don't know if you can capture that moment, and you've got to be ready with a fast enough shutter speed. So if you're worrying about low ISO and you don't have a fast enough shutter, you're not going to get that shot.
Well, imagine if you got that shot, but you couldn't shoot it at a 4,000th of a second because you had an ISO issue. There might have been blur somewhere where it just wouldn't have worked. So yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, that's right. And, you know, I don't want to take that risk. So, you know, and I was one of my favorite people to watch. There's a YouTube, his name's Roman something. He's a Sigma Pro. But he said nobody ever asked him, no magazine or anything's ever asked him to give back shutter speed. He said, so don't, he goes, he rolls out of bed at 800 ISO. I love this.
I love it.
Oh, you've got to watch him. He's on YouTube. He's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, so that's what I tell people. Just be ready. Settings. You got the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a Bullen's Albatross, and this is like my hero shot because I was on a boat off Lord Howe Island, which is off the coast, 2,000 kilometres east of Sydney. So it's in the middle of the, I'm going to get this wrong, Pacific Ocean.
One of the oceans.
So I'm forgiven because I'm on the other side of Australia. It's irrelevant what happens on the east coast of Australia. But anyway, oh, sorry, I've got birds outside. I took with a 7D Mark II, so it's taken with one of those horrible little crop sensor cameras. I had a 300mm lens. There was a bit of noise in it, and it was an overcast day, and it was raining actually, and I was so seasick. I threw up that much. The boat tour guy said he'd never seen anyone throw up that much in years. And I think I was bringing the Albatross in. Because he wasn't putting out food. We were going on a thing around Bowles Pyramid. And it's like all these Albatross came in. And there's essentially my vomit because I was that, but this bird is so phenomenally beautiful, and it was pouring rain, and the boat's rocking, and I got this shot, and that's why I love this shot because it's about the story. You know, we talk about the story behind it, and I think Clint said it's about passion, and when you've got that passion, nothing will stop you. You just need to capture that bird, and he was so beautiful. And the irony is, because it was a cloudy day, it's actually brought out a lot of detail in that bird that you might not have got if it was a sunny day. I don't think you would have got the same kind of image. And I like the raindrops. There's a bit of raindrops.
I mean, it's so the sort of gradations and that are all so you know, what's the word, gentle. You know, it's just everything is. It's almost like a pastel you know, sketch or something like that. I think it's fantastic. A lot of people have said it reminds them of a comic or something. It's quite interesting. A lot of people have said that. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so what I did in this one, I put, and so this is about going out at golden hour. We're talking about making your photos more beautiful. Actually, with the number one thing I see with people, and I've just been through my photos from 2009. I'm doing a mass clean out. And I want to kill myself because every single photo I think was taken at 10 a.m. in the morning, or, you know, 11 It's because you don't want to get up so early. That's
yeah, that's and I can tell that. I look at my old photos and I can tell they're taken at the wrong time. You can see too much contrast. They're awful. They're awful, awful, awful. And we all go through that. And so photographers, I say we all go through that. And I'm standing in most of them. You can see that I'm standing looking down at a bird at 11 o'clock in the morning on a hot Australian, like, it's like the worst thing you can do. But this one, you see the one in the top right corner, can you see that picture? It's straight out of camera picture. So you can see that what I've done, I've only warmed it a little bit or something I can't even remember now, I did post-processing, but I've hardly touched it. The original image was so beautiful. It was that last light. It's beautiful vegetation called samphire. It's got a purple hue. It's at a little inland saltwater lake, you know, calm waters. I was lying on the shoreline and an avocet came in, and it was just one of those beautiful things. But it's all about the light. If you took this at 10 a.m. in the morning, it's going to look terrible. It's just not going to be the same shot. Absolutely. And this is that image. Have you got on to the next one? Yep. Ah, there we go. This is the one. And this is taken with a 70 to 200mm lens. So what I wanted to show people is you don't need a huge lens either to get nice photos. And it was basically just an area, it was a cloudy day and it's in swamp paperbarks. So they have that neutral, there was nothing of colour in the background, and then there just happened to be this little wren, and I just took it. And it just seemed to work. But what's really interesting is I've analysed this later. If you look at it, it's got the golden spiral in that shape, leading the bird around, and it goes around that branch and then it comes back to where the bird's looking back into the picture. So your eye travels around, and that's why you think, oh, it shouldn't be that pleasing because it's quite a messy shot. But actually, it's got that classic shape that is aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So, you know, why do some photos work and some don't? If the bird was looking the other way, it just wouldn't be the same. But it's also that contrast between the grey neutral colours, and that's the colour of those birds. They will if nobody's seen them, they are absolutely phenomenal. Like you just can't believe they're real.
It's just such a beautiful image. You know, I don't know if it's just the color that I'm drawn to, but I sort of keep, you know, coming back to it. You know, it's a bit of like a goldfish. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. You know, even though the branches are there, and you know, and they should be pulling my attention away. They're almost you know, they don't feature for me. It's just, I really love it.
Yeah, and in a subtle way, they are leading you back around, always back to the bird, which is quite interesting. Yeah, and the bird's looking the wrong way, because you know they always say it has to look from left to right.
Yeah, catch light in eyes, etc.
Yeah. So this is why I go nuts when people tell me, oh, I had a guy say, oh, I chopped off the feet, it's not a good photo. And I said, where the hell did you get this idea that if you can't see the feet, it's not a good photo? And he said, oh, I just heard it somewhere. And I said, no.
It's rule number 7, subsection 1.
I know. I can't, look, my hackles go up. Whenever someone tells me there's some rule, I'm just like, I want to scream, because I said, there are no rules in art. You know, if it looks good, it's good. Don't start picking apart with redundant ideas. I mean, look, that's not always the case, but, you know, you need to be prepared to. So this is another image. This is a classic example. I have a friend, he was possibly one of the best, he was one of the best bird photographers in the world, and he's, only reason I say he may not be now, is I don't know if he's still taking bird photos. He absolutely hated this image with a passion.
Why?
Because the bill wasn't in focus. And he's so technically precise, and you'll come across these people in forums and stuff all the time. He just looked at it and he said, I hate it. And then it was really funny, because he was at some awards where he won, I think he won the Portfolio Prize and the Australian Geographic Awards. And he was there and he was texting me, and he goes, you're never going to believe it. So he said, that photo that I hate of yours just won the threatened species section. It just shows you, like, he hated it, and he's been a judge of that competition before, but other people on another day liked it. So you know, we all talk about the eye has to be in focus. Even that is probably most, if you can see the eye, then it's preferable definitely to have it in focus. But the idea that everything else have to be sharp and you have to see the tail and everything, and part of what attracted in this image is that feeling of the bird disappearing in the sand. It's actually in sand. It is an endangered fairy tern. The subspecies is endangered in WA. And that beautiful, people think I do a lot of Photoshop on my photos. So I've had people in my workshops come, oh my God, I thought you did that in Photoshop. And I was like, no, I didn't do that in Photoshop. Sorry, I've just, I don't know what I've done actually. Oh, there we are.
There we go.
What that is the sandbar between me and the bird. Now, for good foreground blur, to get that beautiful hazy look, it had the object in the foreground has to be at least halfway between you and the subject. If that object is closer to the subject, so if the sandbar was closer to the bird, you would have started seeing more details of it, and it wouldn't have had that misty, ethereal look.
Yeah.
So the trick with foreground blur is get something that's closer to you than it is to the subject, basically. And you can create really beautiful effects. And I did one in the workshop. I had one of those beautiful pink papery flowers that are always in the tropics. I can't remember. And they're spiky. Trying to think of their name. Anyway, I had like a bush of them, and I put something, statue in the middle but further away, and then I got them to photograph through. They had this beautiful pink fuzz all around, and then just the eye of the statue in the background. And that's what you can do in the field. So just look for opportunities. Don't think, oh, I have to get the whole bird clear or the whole animal in the open. No, what about shooting through a bush, shooting through smoke bush or something will create really beautiful effects.
No, it creates a very different feeling as well, you know, from just the bird as it is there. You know, you just all this layering and you know, it just takes your mind on a bit of a story, which I really love.
Yeah. So do you have the next image? I wanted to tell, this is a good story as well. I took this with a 100 to 400 millimeter lens at 286 millimeters. And can you see the photo in the top right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can see that's me in the blue shirt. And so I'm not dressed for camouflage. We're actually going out to dinner. And I'm photographing the cormorants that are, sorry, my dog's here. She's just found mum and she's very excited. I'm photographing these cormorants. So you can see where I was. And this is what I say to people. People go, oh, just cormorants there. That's boring. I'm not going to bother taking a photo. You can get the shot that I've got here. That's what I was doing. I wasn't, you know, you don't need camouflage. You don't need to hide. You look at common birds that are used to people. So they were used to people there at a wharf. They'll gradually creep forward. And then what I did is I got below the horizon level, sea level. I got low so that I could place the birds against the sky and the cloud. And then I could overexpose the background. So I don't care if the background is completely blown out, but I get that beautiful white of the birds and they're beautifully exposed. And then you wait. And I've seen people, I do workshops and they go, okay, I've got a picture of that purple swamp hen now. I want to move on to another bird. And I'm like, no. If you're in the perfect position, you wait because behaviour happens. And then it's just a wonderful moment when one bird started, biting the other one. And so that's what it is. It's patience. You don't need to go to exotic places. You can make beautiful photos out of common birds. You just need to start to be patient and observe and learn how to get the right settings and just think a bit outside the box.
And also experiment a little bit, so if, like you say, you got that one shot, try something else, do maybe try it, set it in monochrome and play with that for a bit,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like of course I got the ID shot because actually these cormorants they are off the coast of southwest WA, but they're quite hard to see. So I was on Kangaroo Island in South Australia, and they were more common, and they were on the wharf, and so I don't normally get an opportunity to be that close to them. So I thought, right, this is an opportunity. I wanted to get the good record shot first, and then once I got the record shot, I said, okay, how am I going to make this different? How am I going to up the ante?
Absolutely.
Okay, and this one?
Love it.
This one's straight out of the camera. So the only thing I've done is cropped and sharpened, you resize, sharpen in Lightroom or something. And I think this is what Anthony was saying too, that because it's a white bird and it was in the light and behind it was in dark water and there was shadow behind and it was quite bright light. So by the time you expose for the white, you completely blacked out the background. And then you get this shot straight out of camera. It's not, I haven't done anything to it. So I think it's quite remarkable and the potential is there. Sometimes you get used to this idea, people say, well, you need to bring out details in the shadows. So it's like, well, not always, not always. Just don't be scared to break the rules. Don't listen to people and say, oh, you can't have all black. Well, guess what? Get no black.
I mean, if you'd exposed for more, more detail in the rest of the shot, you would have lost all of the detail in the feathers over there. And at the moment, there's just such
really interesting because with shots
there.
like this, this is how you have to get this shot. But actually, I did have another shot where I took it in a bit harsher light, so the contrast was even greater. And because the light was so harsh, you couldn't even really get detail in the whites very well. It started to, even if you're underexposed, it was just too much for the camera, that bright, garish, bright white. But so you still have to be reasonably early in the morning, but it doesn't, imagine if that was golden hour, it'd be even nicer, but it was obviously after that. But it wasn't late in the morning. It was kind of early-ish. Yeah, okay. And again, that's a 100 to 400 millimeter shot, so it wasn't taken with a stonkingly great big lens. And this is another shot that's almost straight out of the camera. I have lightened the white a bit, but again, that whole effect of the light and shadow is completely in camera. All I've done is just brought out the bird a bit more. But I like the natural blues that come from that cold shadow thing. So it's a really good technique. This is another one. I absolutely love this image. And it was on Christmas Island, and people, oh my God, they don't like frigate birds, and I love them. I mean, I know they mug boobies and they, you know, they get a really bad rap. But they could be killing birds and eating them like raptors, but they don't do that. All they do is they grab them by the legs or they grab them by the wing and they shake them a bit till they drop their fish. You know, they're absolutely stunning birds, frigate birds. I think they get a bad rap. But this was taken, they was just sitting on a fence actually, and it was taken during the day, mid-afternoon. The light was quite bright. So if you underexpose the background, I positioned myself so there was shadow behind the bird. And then I exposed for the highlights and the background went black. And this is almost straight out of the camera too. I've just like lightened the whites a bit in select places to bring out more textures. But I just love that. And then what I did is I took hundreds of shots of it preening, because, you know, this is only one shot like this, and it's got that tail feather shaft just crossing across, and it's got that beautiful yellow shaft there. And so there was only one shot like that. So people say, oh, don't spray and pray, but you have to sometimes. You want to get that shot. You need to maximize your chances of getting a beautiful, unique pose, because you don't just post any photo of that bird doing that. You post the photo that's most aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. That's, I mean, the lighting on this, for me, if I'd seen it without explanation, I would have said that's a studio lit.
Exactly. Or like that's what people think, I'm Photoshop this stuff, and I was like, no, I can do so much more in camera, and I want to scream at, you know. And people were watching me photographing this bird and go, what is she doing? Because the light was almost harsh. That's what it was like. Yeah. You see them thinking, well, you know, that's going to be like the most boring photo ever. You can't see what you're doing. They can't see the adjustments I'm making. I just noticed I also used F11. Because I wanted to get maximum, could get quite close to the bird. So I wanted to get maximum detail too. So the closer you are, if you want detail, the more depth of field you need. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this shot, if you got this shot.
Yeah.
I think you get this, my laptop does saturate colours quite a bit. Or maybe they're coming up the opposite on yours, I don't know, but it's not calibrated or anything. I just put this shot in basically quickly just to show you people want clean backgrounds. You don't limit yourself to clean backgrounds, because you can get amazing effects shooting into the light. And when you get those out of focus branches and things, you know, some things work, and you've just got to give it a go. You don't necessarily see it when you're looking through. I mean, you probably do actually when looking through. I did think that was a nice shot, but it turned out much better than I thought. So don't limit yourself and have rules, you know. How am I going for time?
Probably about 20 minutes left.
Okay. All right. So this is oh my God. I had to put this little dude in. It's a mud skipper. I've had so many people, even my sister's like, what animal is that? I was like, how do you not know what a mud skipper is?
And let me guess, you're relying on the mud again.
Huh? Yes. I tell you, this is a funny story too. Because we went there and I was lying there. I had this cotton dress on. You didn't go there to photograph mud skippers. I mean, I knew they were there. I did go to photograph, but I had a towel, but it got wet. You know, when you put it in the mud, your towel's not a great thing. You really need like a mat, like a rubber mat. And I had this cotton dress on. I thought, oh, bugger it, because it's Broome, it's you know, Northern Australia. There's no one around. I lay down in the mud because to get at eye level, that's what you need to do. And then, and I did the same thing for this that I did with the wasps. Is I sprayed and prayed, but also the secret to this image is you have to press the shutter before he jumps, because he's so quick that you won't get him in the air. You'll get him kind of on the way down. If you only click when you see him move, you'll miss the shot. So you have to kind of watch them and see how often they jump. And again, I took about 5,000 images this up. I was going crazy. I just... It's like a Gatling gun. It's like, But I would do it in spaces. I'd wait, and I think after he's jumped, I knew it would be a little while before he'd jump again. Then when I thought it was getting around that time, because you couldn't tell, it was kind of hit and miss. And then I think out of 5,000 images, there were 5 shots where he was in the air. And I was shooting into the light, so it's a little bit bright in some spots. And it's a concept I'd like to go back and do again one day. We were about to go to Broome actually, but obviously we've had to stop because of this coronavirus. Because I do want to play with this idea more, because these are amazing little fish, and you know what, when they have fights, it's so fantastic. They basically, do you know how they fight?
No.
You've got to Google it. They basically just open their mouths at each other. They just go around with this wide mouth. It's like, I've got a bigger mouth than you.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And then the most amazing, and then you see that little one on the right. I don't know if you can see, there's a little tiny one with a little tail. Oh my God, they're so cute. So you have these big ones around, and then you have these little ones with these like little tails and these little tiny eyes, and then the most amazing critters. And people just overlook animals like that. And anything that leaps out of water or flies through the air just gets my attention. I've discovered I've got a bit of an addiction. But yeah, so these kind of things, it's the same technique, fast shutter speed, and getting to eye level makes all the difference here. But to finish off the story, I got up and I turned around to go back to the car, and at the car park was a group, because it's a well-known migratory birding area, and there was a group of about 15 twitchers with binoculars.
All watching you lying on the mud.
Khaki and their little hats and their binoculars, and they're all looking at, and I was like, oh my God. And I had to get up and walk past, and they never said a word. That's the worst thing. You think you'd say something, they all just stared at me. It's like, oh. Yeah, so especially when you're a woman and you're blonde and you're a bit, looks like you're not quite there. I think a lot of people just think I'm crazy, and they think, oh, she's got no idea what she's doing.
I love this shot. I think it's the being backlit just makes it for me, that backlit shot. Fantastic.
I just squeezed this one in because I cropped it for the slideshow. I've probably haven't done a lot of justice to some of these photos. Again, this is a 100-400 millimeter. I was on a workshop and someone else was borrowing my big lens, so I had to say. At one stage, they gave me a Nikon, and I thought, oh my God, this is like my worst nightmare, because I was using their Nikon camera. So it's like waking up in a nightmare when you've got a Nikon camera and you don't know how to change the settings. But anyway, but this one I was using my own smaller lens, and that's what made me realise I'd been shooting with the 600 exclusively for a while, and I thought, I've been missing opportunities. You can't really see it very well from this photo, but the reflections in the water of those clouds, and if I'd zoomed in, I would have missed that. So what I want to do is you have to get at a higher angle too, but you can get, you know how sometimes they look like it's the Sistine Chapel, it's the Michelangelo, that beautiful cloud. You get that in the water, and you think, well, what if you can get a bird in that scene? I mean, it's this idea, nobody else is allowed to steal it. Thank you very much.
Copyrighted. It's yours. It's a
work in progress, but I just want people to be aware of the idea, opportunities of reflections, and you don't always have to be at eye level, and you don't always have to have a big lens. This is just an example. I think some of the others did this too, slow the shutter speed down sometimes. Yes. This was late at night. The sun had gone down. When I say late at night, it was late in the afternoon. The sun had actually gone down, so it was too dark for conventional photography. So I thought, you know what? I was at ISO 2500 and 1/30th of a second. That's how dark it was. That's dark. But you can see that the eye's reasonably sharp enough to get a picture of that. And that's what I do when the light gets too low for convention. I say, okay, let's experiment now. Let's just do slow shutter, but you've got nothing to lose. And then you get those beautiful blues in the water. And in Australia we have, and you probably have it too, South Africa, the whitest of white sand. It's so magnificent. It's just a dream.
In some areas, I think the sand could be better in other areas, but that sort of pristine white sand, I think, is fantastic when you can get that.
Oh, I'm blessed where I am. It's phenomenal. And then this is going up the creativity continuum. I talk about shooting into the light and getting those bokeh. And actually, you know what helps? This is a really dirty river, and so you don't think about it. But all of those light bits, a lot of that's coming from all these little bits of stuff on. It's not rubbish, but it's, I can't describe it. It's just little stuff floating on the water.
Yeah.
And ordinarily it'd be very distracting. But when you're shooting into the light, it was that golden light when the sun was coming up and there was a spoonbill feeding. And I just love those little circles of light are fascinating. But so don't be scared. Shoot into the light. You get drama, you get mood. It tells a story. The spoonbill's flipping up and it has prey in its bill, but you can't really see. I've got another one coming up where you can see better. Oh, here's another one of the spoonbill. So this is another example of shooting. It's more like side light, and the lights actually pick up all the colour in his bill. And then what I love is the reflection of all those droplets in the water. And because I'm at water level, they come up like this little thing. And again, it's spray and pray. It's capturing that moment. It's being at eye level. It's having a fast enough shutter there. All of these things. And it's also using light, not just light at your back, but side light, backlight. That's what gives an image a sense of mood and drama. If you're only ever photographing in one type of light, you're only going to get one type of mood. So you need to think more. And the other shot on the right is just a quirky composition. It was misty. I'd had my normal shots with the landscape, and I did this one in portrait, the spoonbill. And then he was shaking his bill. And then I wanted to use the reflections in the water. And again, there were light and shadows, and I was using them. And that's almost straight out of the camera, that shot. There's only been a bit of sharpening in it, and maybe a bit of boost of the whites, and that's it. So it's just the potential of nature is enormous, and you just have to break all those shackles, and you can get those shots.
And again, it's one of those sort of things where if you have different, once you've got the shot that you want, change a lens, do it portrait orientation, and, get those options.
You know how hard it is to do a portrait orientation with a big lens? And I was like, I made myself do it, but my arm's like shaking, and it's like the most uncomfortable position ever. But I make myself do it sometimes, and but it's worth it to change it. Just change, and when people shoot for stock photos, they know that anyway. You know that because you've got to cater for what the client wants, and they might want to put words here or there, and they might want to use it in different circumstances. So keep that in mind. And this last shot, I just did it to show if you break all the rules, like, and you don't even see the head of the bird. There's no catch light in the eye here. And in fact, this is, I put this in the creative section. It won the creative section of the Bird Photography of the Year. And I put it in creative because I haven't added or taken anything away. What I did is I darkened the shadows more in post-processing, and I darkened them quite a lot to black. They weren't as dark as, this was early on when I was doing this technique, and I didn't underexpose. Maybe I underexposed by maybe 1.5, 2 stops, whereas now I underexpose by about 4 or 5. So you can still see quite a bit in the background, like quite some detail. So that's why I moved it into the artistic kind of category, because once you start doing manipulations that are beyond, substantially changing basically what came out of the camera, it's a different category. But I was just struck because this is a really common bird, and I was actually disappointed when I went to the lake this day because all there were Pacific black ducks, and I was like, oh my God. And then he was preening, and I did my usual thing. I took photos anyway because I'm an obsessive compulsive clicker, and I was about to delete this photo, and I suddenly looked at it and thought, oh, hang on, I really like that shape. And then obviously I boosted the the reflection and the highlights. And that part of the wing is called the speculum. You don't always see it with the birds. You only ever see it when they preen or when they fly. And it's amazing, those iridescent colours. But it just shows you how it's a common bird. It was in a lake in the middle of Perth. There was nothing special about any of it. I wasn't there super early in the morning or anything. And you just have to be alive to the possibilities, and don't close your mind to any possibility. Don't have rules that you have to do this and that. You know, it's like we said, learn the rules first and then just go out and break every single one of them. Okay, and then I went back. So now if we go back to what we started with, if we go back to this, you see where we've been on this kind of journey. It's so hard because I don't know what you're thinking. Am I talking too much?
Listen, I have to say that...
Have you had coffee yet?
What, this morning? Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah. I could probably do a couple more to keep up with you, but as soon as we're off here, I'm definitely heading for another one. I love the way that the journey that you described from one end to the other. But the overriding thing for me is just, and it's one of the reasons why I started this group, is to just the passion that you have and the energy that you have when talking about photography. I'm sitting and I'm going, when can I get out? I need to borrow a longer lens. You know what I mean? It's just I just want to go and shoot, and for me that's really what it's all about. At the end of the day, I might not be the best bird photographer on the planet. I might not even be the best bird photographer in my house, but at least if I'm going out there and I'm taking pictures and I'm loving what I'm doing, that's what it's all about. By you showing us the options and different ways to look at things, I think it's just so inspiring, and I really appreciate your time and your energy and your laughter throughout this presentation. It's so refreshing, and I absolutely love it.
Oh no, do you know? And it's so true though, passion. And I love birds, and I think everybody who photographs them loves them, and that's why. But I've actually also met a lot of people who get a bit frustrated because they haven't mastered the technical stuff, or they feel like they're not that interested in just recording ID shots of everything. Like they want to enjoy the birds in their garden, but they don't know how to make nice images. And it's so nice to be able to inspire them and to say, you can do more. It's not just about that it is bird photography is a creative outlet. It's not about getting, it's not just for people who want to get good record shots. It's for everyone. And if you want to be an artist, you can do it. And birds are a wonderful subject. They're absolutely crazy. They're nuts. I mean, we've got cockatoos that slide down roofs on their asses. Do you know what I mean? And then fly back up to the top. They twirl around and you get little willy wagtails, and they sit there and they look at you and they jump on, big raptors, and you get birds just doing all kinds of crazy things. But I want to say to people, you don't even need exotic birds. You don't need to be in exotic locations. Look at the birds in your backyard. Look at the birds on the street. Urban birds is a wonderful category of photography too, and it challenges your artistic creativity because you can use human geometric structures and things and juxtapose this natural element against this completely man-made environment. I mean, there's opportunities everywhere, and let me tell you, everybody loves birds. I mean, there's a few nutters out there who have a phobia, but we can blame Alfred Hitchcock for that. A lot of damage, that guy, but most people love them.
Absolutely. So I won't. We won't talk about those people on this channel. We want to keep it all above board. So I really wanted to thank you so much for your time and your energy. It's been really refreshing, and when I post this on a little bit later today, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a lot of fantastic comments.
Obviously.
Obviously.
I do things and then I run.
I've noticed. So you'll probably have to wake up tomorrow morning, have a strong coffee, and then come and answer all the comments and questions that appear there. I really wanted to say thank you very much. Just before we wrap up, I wanted to say thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And I'll look forward to the comments from the rest of the
thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I love this, that I can communicate with someone in another country, in another genre. Like, sharing ideas is fantastic. And I think we all have to get out of our own comfort zone.
Yeah.
And try different things. So, you know, I'm learning a lot too. Fantastic.
And now you can have another Zoom meeting after this with such confidence, because you've done the first one and it went fantastically well.
I know where the webcam is.
Yeah, you know where it is now.
What? I have one?
Where? Thanks, Georgina.
You know, I've been looking at that little thing and I never knew what it was.
Okay, I'm going to end it here. It's going to go on forever. Thank you so much, Georgina.
No worries. Have a good day.
Bye.
Yeah.